In this week's episode of the Say What You Like podcast, me and my podcast partner in crime, Phil, we discuss what's an NFL superstar. Jimmy Garoppolo. Is he the next Michael Jackson or is he the next Vanilla Ice? Dak Prescott. Has his winning and success qualified him as a superstar? And of course, we got to discuss the young Baker Mayfield.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Say What You Like Sports Podcast. And today, I want to cover a very special topic that's kind of close to the heart, because this one was actually started off a Twitter exchange here with my partner, Eric Hernandez. So on Twitter, and you can follow me at SayWhatchaFeel, I came across a tweet by Super Scout Brothers. Shout out to Super Scout Brothers. And they tweeted, Garoppolo seems to have gone from a superstar to a bust because he tore his ACL. People are just weird, man. And to that, I retweeted, better yet, I asked, when was Garoppolo even a superstar? I don't really remember that time period, at least not in the NFL. So, Eric, what makes an NFL player a superstar? And let's just jump right into it. Is Jimmy Garoppolo an NFL superstar, in your opinion?
I'm going to answer that question by asking you a question.
All right.
So, what makes an NFL superstar is no different than what makes anybody a superstar. And I ask you this question. How many songs did Michael Jackson have to sing and dance before he became a superstar? How many guys did Mike Tyson have to knock out before he became a superstar? The thought process is, you have it. It's you there. Michael Jackson, the minute his vocals hit that mic and he sung and danced, he's a superstar. Doesn't matter. First song he sang as a kid, bang, superstar. The first time Mike Tyson sent somebody's head into the stratosphere, bang, superstar. Because you wanted to see them.
Yeah, all right. But by that logic, and we'll just keep it in the music business, is Vanilla Ice a superstar? He's a one-hit wonder.
Yes.
He does not have the catalog that a Frank Sinatra has, or a Michael Jackson, or a Metallica, or a Tupac Shakur, who are the greats. To me, those are superstars of their industry. And in the NFL, Jimmy Garoppolo at this point just is not.
But the thing is, when you say Vanilla Ice, is we've seen his career end. We know the book is closed on him.
Right.
The book isn't closed on Jimmy Garoppolo. And yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo is a superstar because Super Scout Brothers is right. And we're going to take it back a few years to when we're on the Cincinnati press conference and the demise, in quotations, of Tom Brady at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs. And people were asking, do we want to see Jimmy? Can we see Jimmy? What is Jimmy Garoppolo? Is it time to move on to Jimmy Garoppolo? The greatest coach spent a second-round pick on this quarterback because he saw something. Of course, he wasn't going to beat Tom Brady out. Then Tom Brady gets suspended for Deflategate. You're going up against the Arizona Cardinals, who were coming off the NFC Championship, and he fucking lit them up at times. The Miami Dolphins lit them up. Was going for 300 yards before he got hurt. Okay, you had teams wanting to draft or trade for him. The Browns willing to give up first-round picks. The Niners ended up getting him, and the only reason he's not a New England Patriot is because Bill Belichick was told, you got to get rid of Jimmy because Tom's threatened by it, okay? And another point is, he's a superstar in the fact that people wanted to see him. He was the most talked about. For that time he started, he was one of the best quarterbacks in that time frame. There, you look at Pro Football Focus's grades, highest rated. But had the number one defense in Jacksonville come in, and he lit them up for 300 yards. And I'll put it like this, the Niners couldn't win a game. The following year, they had the most primetime games. Why? Because people wanted to see Jimmy Garoppolo. And why? Because he is a superstar.
I mean, I do think you have some valid points. When you think of a superstar, you think of somebody that the crowds, the masses, want to see perform in their field, whether it be music or whether it be football, for this matter. But to me, I just think, like, looking at some of these tweets, like I mentioned, 5 games does not a superstar make. I think you got to give me a longer resume than 5 games of kicking ass as a starting quarterback before I proclaim you superstar. And I got to admit, I'm going to push back a little bit. You're a 49ers fan. I'm a Cowboys fan. But just kind of trying to be reasonable about it. I think you're kind of subscribing to the John Lynch handbook on how to put out fires. I mean, he's on the hot seat this year. I'm not saying he's a bad GM. I'm not even saying he's a good GM. I'm just saying he has to go into 2019 and win. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think, hey, in order to get the fan base behind him, you better believe in Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think Garoppolo has talent. I think Jimmy Garoppolo has potential. Like I said in these tweets, I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's going to be a quality starting quarterback, if not a top 10 quarterback in this league. But potential does not make you a superstar. It's like calling one of these 2019 NFL draft picks a superstar already. You have not proven a thing in the NFL. To me, part of being a superstar is, hey, you're proven. But what I'm kind of getting from you is you're saying, hey, a superstar doesn't necessarily have to be proven.
No.
Would you disagree?
No,
or agree?
I agree. I think where we kind of differentiate is that a superstar, in my opinion, is someone who's must-see and who is talented. You're must-see because you're talented, right? T.O. in our time was must-see, not just because of his antics, because he was talented. Right? Randy Moss was a superstar. Why? Not just because of his talent, but I mean, not just because he was must-see, because he was talented. So I would ask you a question, going to my fandom. When Ezekiel Elliott, that game against the Pittsburgh, his rookie year, where he went toe-to-toe with Le'Veon Bell, not a full season in, and had only 6 games. You can't tell me the thought didn't cross your mind. He is great. He is a superstar.
Right. I agree with you. I did proclaim, I'm not going to deny, I should say, I did proclaim Zeke as a superstar, let's say just a little bit past midway of that season. I didn't wait a full season to call Zeke a superstar. But at that point, he's leading the league in yards. He's leading the league in touchdowns, in carries, and the Cowboys had the NFC's best record. When did a player like Jimmy Garoppolo have the NFC's best record or lead the league in passing or passing touchdowns? I just don't see the resume yet to call him a superstar.
When he started, he never lost. For 6 games, that's big. Against the best defenses, he played 2 playoff teams and beat them. Okay, went down the field against the Titans, smashed on Jacksonville. You know, he's shown. I mean, even the games this year, yeah, he had a bad game, but even in that game against Minnesota, his first game, they were markedly better. He can throw for 300 yards. He had a pretty good game, actually a great game against the Lions. Yeah, he took sacks, still went down the field on them. So I understand what you're saying. Now, if you were to ask me, is he a top 5 quarterback? No, he hasn't. That he has not proven.
Right.
Because then we are looking at statistics, wins, longevity, but he is in that moment electrifying. When he's on the field, he moves the ball down the field. You know, he's someone you want to see. Like I said, the NFL saw that. The NFL realized he was a superstar 6 games in. The San Francisco 49ers realized it. And we are using a lot of hindsight. You would want to know what a lot of New England fans thought after they had just lost that Super Bowl to the Eagles and thought, man, we just gave away our future. Now Brady rectified it this year because of Belichick. And now that conversation's gone. But in that moment, you would find a lot of New England Patriot fans like, we should have kept him. We should have kept him.
I'll give you that. We are kind of looking at this in hindsight with 2020 vision. Whereas if you took us, or I should say if you rewind us a year, we may not all be seeing this same perspective. But I will say this then. Then let's talk a little bit about the future and how that affects Jimmy Garoppolo's quote-unquote superstar status. What does he have to do this year to stay a superstar going into 2020?
Oh, he has to win. He has to put up numbers. He has to win. He has to have – there are no excuses because what you said, he's either going to be Michael Jackson or Vanilla Ice.
Right.
We don't know yet, but he's down one of those 2 paths. And if he comes out and he throws interceptions and they lose games like Minnesota, and that's the regular, then yeah, I'll sit there and say the shine is off. You know, he no longer, whatever he captured lightning in that ball that made him a superstar, it's gone. It was fleeting. Then I will say that wasn't what I thought. But a lot of it is, like you said, projecting and looking. Do I have confidence that he can keep that up? Yes. Has to win. There are no excuses for the San Francisco 49ers anymore.
Right. So what do you think is a realistic expectation for not only Jimmy Garoppolo, but the 49ers? I mean, how many wins is winning? Do you have to make the playoffs? Do you have to hit 500? Do you have to lead the league in passing? I mean, what is it that are the key statistics or the key numbers that are going to keep not only Jimmy Garoppolo, but the 49ers relevant in 2020?
10 wins.
10 wins.
10 wins.
So if Garoppolo wins 6 games, he's no longer a superstar?
If they, okay.
Unless he's probably balling out of control.
No, and even I don't think that, because the defense shouldn't be as bad as it was before. With a third string practice squad player named Nick Mullins, they won 4 games.
Right.
If you're only worth 2 more games to me, then I will sit here and say I was wrong. He's not. He's vanilla ice. Ice, ice, baby. It's time to go away.
All
right?
That's a good one.
Okay. But it's if you have beliefs in him, and if you look at him, and you sit there and say, no, I think this guy can make plays. You look through it, and there's so many plays that this guy can make. Even with New England, being able to escape the pocket, maneuver. I mean, he's got a little bit of Romo in him. And you look at that. That's another thing, is that I think superstar is not always going to be considered the best. Romo can be considered a superstar without being the Peyton Manning or the Tom Brady.
Right.
But, man, when he was on, you wanted to watch him.
Right. He was box office.
He was box office. And I think that's what a superstar is. I think because football is so different than in any other sport, where it takes a lot to win. It's not just a quarterback,
Yeah, and dating porn stars doesn't hurt.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he realized he was a superstar a little before than anybody else should. I think it went to his head. But hey, man, live your best life, bro.
Hey, I'm with that.
Yeah, I'm with that. As long as, and I always think we had this debate last time, was as long as it doesn't cost you losses on the field, we're good.
It's all good.
But he broke his knee. So, this is a big year for everybody. And this is a year to establish himself. If they go out and he wins 10 games, or they win a lot of games, like they reach their potential. The defense should be fixed. You have Kyle Shanahan. If Garoppolo is healthy and they surprise everyone and win that division, and they're that surprise team, that 12-4, 13-3, you know what? Guess what? That's going to be on his back.
Right.
And I think then he will have earned more of that moniker in a lot of people's eyes. Okay, you're an established person.
I'm with you 100% on that. If he leads the 49ers to the playoffs, and it's primarily on the back of Jimmy Garoppolo, hey, you just graduated to superstar status in my eyes.
Yeah.
But I will say this. What happens if Jimmy G gets hurt again? He's had issues with injuries. He's been hurt before. You brought up Romo. I love Romo more than probably any guy you're going to find out on the streets. I worship at the altar of Romo. But I have to admit, towards the end of his career, he just got hurt too much to be able to depend on him as the starting quarterback. So let's just say Jimmy Garoppolo balls out for, let's say, 4 or 5 games and gets hurt. Does he maintain superstar status?
No, because then the injuries become more of then the injuries overshadow. It's kind of like this. It'll be what could have been. He'll be the what could have been. I'll give you another example. If we'll use Michael Jackson, because I've been using him. If he comes out and he does all these songs, and there's Thriller, and after Thriller he loses the ability to sing, or after when he's a kid, after the Jackson 5, you have this amazing voice, and then he loses the ability to sing.
Right.
You have this parts that are great, but you don't know what he could have been. Then he is rivaled by other people. If Mike Tyson won only one championship, and that was the end, and we never saw other fights. You have these glimpses, and what it does is it allows other people's greatness to kind of oversee you, because then all of a sudden you're like, well, but he did it longer, and he was better. And then all of a sudden, if you're a superstar, like I said, my view is people want to see you, and you're great at your job. All of a sudden, you're never there, so who wants to see somebody that's on the bench? Then you get passed up by the Bakers, by the Mahomes, by these young quarterbacks. Well, yeah, right now they're ahead of him because he was hurt last year, But the love they're getting is the love he was getting the year before that. That's why, like I say, as minuscule as it sounds, to go from 1 or 2 premier games, Monday night, Sunday night football, to 5, that's the most you can get. Nothing changed but him on that team, because people wanted to see him, because Jimmy Garoppolo, when that season ended, was considered a superstar.
Fair enough. So at this point, we can kind of steer away from the Jimmy Garoppolo conversation, but just to furtherly define what makes an NFL player a superstar, let's name a few players and see if we can find some middle ground on what is a superstar. You brought up Cooper, Amari Cooper, wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, and you asked me, would you consider Cooper a superstar? And I got to admit, I think Cooper has everything it takes. He has the talent, he has the skill, he has the ability, he has some of the stats that say superstar, but he's just been inconsistent. And I just can't consider an inconsistent player a superstar. But I'm going to ask you, as a non-Cowboys fan, non-biased, is Amari Cooper a superstar wide receiver in the league?
It's funny. I don't think yet, but I feel like the only thing that keeps him from being it is because you have, and it's weird to say, it's kind of like you go to Zeke in that team. So it's kind of hard. Like with Garoppolo, just the main point is he was the guy on that team. You know, he was the thing. And I mean, you could say it to Cooper, and I think Cooper's, you know, he's a great wide receiver. I think if he puts another couple games, he doesn't have to put a whole season. If you start to see, you know, the makings of a superstar, I say, yeah. I mean, they were not going to win that division without him.
He's knocking on superstar status's door, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's right there. And I think that he proved a lot. You know, what I think kind of helps Jimmy in this sense is they were so far back they couldn't make the playoffs. So it was always this, what if they made the playoffs? What if Garoppolo led them? But they weren't because they were too far behind. Whereas, you know, you saw Cooper, they finally had lost. You know, they ran to the Rams, and, you know, that's what happened there. But, man, Amari Cooper showed that he has that potential, that he's there. You know, whatever issues he had with the Raiders are gone. I mean, and also with him is that it's dependent on, you know, Dak getting him the ball for him to show.
Right. You
know, if he can get the ball more, man, he's going to show. It's in my opinion, it's his show.
What about Dak Prescott, superstar?
I don't know. That one's hard. That one is hard because I feel like he just has everything. Everything that year, everything was lined in perfectly for him. He had the best offensive line, the best running game. You still had Dez, who is still a matchup nightmare. You still had Witten. You know, the defense came around. I felt like he took advantage of the situations. Do I think he's got superstar potential? Yeah, I think a lot. I think that game again, that playoff game that he lost to Green Bay, like if that had happened this year, I would say without a doubt.
So Jimmy Garoppolo, if I hear you correctly, is a bigger superstar than Dak Prescott at this point in their NFL careers?
Yeah.
But Dak Prescott's been to the playoffs 2 times as the starting quarterback.
Okay.
Dak Prescott's won a playoff game. Dak Prescott's run Rookie of the Year. That resume is way more impressive than a player of Jimmy Garoppolo's status. Now, I'm not gonna talk out of school because I'm a Cowboys fan. I think I could easily admit Jimmy Garoppolo probably has a higher ceiling than Dak Prescott at this point. But if we're just looking at what they've done to be able to call somebody a superstar, as much as I have my reservations on Dak, and I'm being wholeheartedly honest about that, if I have to name one of them a superstar, I'm giving the edge to Dak.
I would simply say this. You're talking about Dak Prescott's first 3 years, right?
Yes.
Okay. If he was drafted by New England,
I don't really have anything else to go on. Did he play another year, right? I mean,
if he was drafted in New England, would he have played his first 3 years?
Probably not.
Okay. So he sat behind, you know, Jimmy had to sit behind the GOAT.
But wait a second. But to be fair, he would have played during those 4 games. Yeah. And I'll tell you something, Dak Prescott has not missed a game in his NFL career. He's one of the most durable quarterbacks in the league. Can Jimmy Garoppolo say that?
Not at this point.
He would have played those 4 games.
Yeah.
He may have went 3-1. Who's to say? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, so we had that. You had a team. When I look at the Dallas Cowboys, if I were to list what they had that year, and it's that year, because any other year, the other 2 years, I'm not saying he's been bad those other years, but he's been inconsistent those other 2 years.
Yeah,
admittedly. Every Cowboys fans will point to, 2016 as the year. That was where they hang their hat on.
Far and away his best year.
Yeah. Okay. You look at a couple things. You have to look at what Jimmy had around him and what he elevated. I think that's the thing. I think Dak can maintain a great offense. I think Jimmy can elevate a great offense. And to me, that goes to, if I were to take just those 2 quarterbacks out and I went position for position on the offense, There is no way you're going to tell me that any position you would have taken a 49er over a Dallas Cowboy. Offensive line,
On
Dallas.
offense?
On running back, Dallas. Wide receivers, Dallas. Tight end, Dallas. Without and in some parts it's not even close. The only position that I can even take for that team is head coach. Because as a play caller on offense, just a play caller, I think Kyle Shanahan's a little bit better than Jason Garrett. Just to scheme up an offense, to get guys open.
That's not saying much, but I'll go with that.
It's going from a 0 to 2. Yeah. I get you. But that's the only argument I could ever have for anything on the offense where Dallas or where San Francisco was even close to Dallas. And Dak, to his credit, did what Dak needed to do. He took advantage of his situation. Whereas I look at Garoppolo, and I see a guy who took guys who were just no names. Like they were not. Guys that aren't even on the roster anymore.
Right.
Carlos Hyde is floating between teams now. He was their main running back.
Right.
You look at what he took and he elevated in his abilities. I'm not saying Dak, and I feel like they're both kind of similar. I think Garoppolo has a little bit better anticipation. I think Dak's a better scrambler, better runner of the ball. Arm strength, I think they're kind of equal. I don't think one's superior, But I just think that Garoppolo has shown the ability to elevate talent, and I don't see that from Dak yet. When Dak, when they took away his running game, he struggled. When you took away his wide receivers and his tight end, he was inconsistent.
Right. I think the 49ers are more able to lean on Garoppolo than, say, the Cowboys can lean on Dak, because the Cowboys have always leaned on that offensive line and Ezekiel Elliott to maintain their offensive scheme.
Yeah. And it's not a knock. Like, who knows? Like, I don't hate Dak as much as everybody else. I'm not, and I would say this. I
probably hate Dak more than you do.
Yeah,
I'm a Cowboys fan, man.
I look at it like, there are times, and they both have some issues where you both kind of scream at them to get rid of the ball.
Right.
They both have that. I just think that if the roles were reversed, it would be interesting to see. I'm not saying, maybe I should amend that. I think they're equals when you put Garoppolo's talent and his abilities versus Prescott's resume and what he's done. But I'm just looking at the talent of the position. Another guy who I would like to talk about is a guy who just changed the world in Cleveland, Ohio. That's Baker Mayfield. Do you consider him? He has had a few games, but this guy is I think he's almost in between them both. Feels like he's got more stats, more things than Garoppolo, but at the same time, I feel like talent-wise, he's up there with Dak too.
All right, this might seem like a bit of a cop-out, but I'd say he's a superstar rookie. I don't know if I'd consider him a superstar player or a superstar quarterback. To me, you just haven't earned it yet, kid. You haven't earned your stripes. Go out there, make a playoff, before I call you superstar in the league. Because if you're a superstar in the league, man, to me, hey, make some type of effect, make an impact on the league that nobody can refute. Don't just impress your fan base, impress the other team's fan base. John Madden had one of the best quotes. He said, a good quarterback can make his team believe they have a chance to win the game, but only a great one makes the other team believe that other team's going to win the game. And that's what I kind of consider superstar, and I don't think Baker's quite there yet. But I will admit, he has turned things around for the Cleveland Browns. So I believe Cleveland Browns fans believe he's a superstar. But outside of Cleveland, I don't know if you can call him superstar quite yet. He's on his way. But I wouldn't say, as of today, superstar. Put that stamp on him.
He won more games than the last 3 Browns quarterbacks in 3 years. And
Stop talking sense to me.
He won more games than they did. Like, you tripled it. They had one win in 2 years.
Yeah, I did.
And he won like 6. They were one game away from, I think, the playoffs. No, they were going to knock them out. They were in contention. But here's the interesting thing. Let's say they make the playoffs. Does he get the credit, or is it, now he's got Odell and now he's got this? He loses that status because now he's gotten weapons.
I think if you talk to Odell, he'll try to take the credit. But I'm giving the credit to Baker because he's under center. He started the revolution in Cleveland. Maybe Odell will be the exclamation point on that sentence, but who started this? I think it's Baker, without a doubt, that has, for the most part, turned this thing around in Cleveland. So I guess you're right. He's another player that I would consider knocking on superstar status's door.
I think what I notice is that I think our difference is, like when I talk about Jimmy Garoppolo and Baker Mayfield, I consider them superstars, but I don't have to consider them top 5 quarter. I think that's where we differentiate. They just have it. They're gonna and
factor.
Yeah, and I think that in time they will prove it. So I'll put my money on them now. I'll take that risky stock, because I feel like, man, in 2 years these guys are gonna be at the head of the table, leading their teams in the playoffs, leading them to conference championships, whatever, so on and so forth. A guy like, and I'll be straight up, I'm a SC fan, and I think Sam Darnold's going to be a good to great quarterback in the sense that he can lead them once in a while, but I don't know if I consider Sam Darnold a superstar. It's different. You see the difference. He's a great quarterback. When you look at guys who are...
He has all the tools, but he doesn't have the moxie.
So I got one for
Baker
you.
Has.
Now, this is a quarterback who's been to a Super Bowl. Didn't win it. Has been a league MVP. He's had his team in the playoffs more times than not.
I already think I know where you're going. Can I... Is it Cam Newton?
No.
Oh, I was going to
But you know what?
Cam
Same
Newton.
division.
Really?
Matt Ryan.
Is he a superstar
Is he a superstar quarterback?
Yeah, I can go with Matt. I can accept Matt Ryan as a superstar quarterback. I mean, he's been to the Super Bowl. He's been to multiple playoffs. For the most part, he's directed that team to success. And he puts up big numbers. He was a first-round draft pick. I mean, you're always hearing about Matt Ryan. You go to Atlanta, you're going to hear about Matt Ryan.
Yeah, but so outside of Atlanta.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, still. I mean, man, he made the Super Bowl. And if it wasn't for, if Shanahan could run the ball like once or twice, it could be a completely different outcome.
That's true. And I think that's the thing is that when we look at it, some of it's just up in the air. If Garoppolo never plays another game or plays only 5 more games, that's it for him.
Right.
If we look at quarterbacks so differently. If they win, Cam Newton, even if Cam Newton loses, he jumps on that ball. It's different, in the fumble. If they win, if the Falcons win, he's a legitimate superstar.
Yeah. He's on another status.
Yeah. I think we're and I think this is what it is. We're coming to an age of quarterbacks where the young ones aren't quite established and the old ones are almost out. It's that passing of the guard.
Right.
The Brady's. Yeah, Brady's going to be around, but he's not going to be around for 10 more years. He's got a few years. Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger. Eli Manning's already in decline. We're waiting for the day it hits Phillip Rivers. These guys, Roethlisberger. When these guys, they're superstars in our minds. We kind of came up like this last 10 years, 15 years. That's been these generation of superstar quarterbacks. But they're on their way out. And you start to see these quarterbacks that haven't quite done it yet. But in my mind, when I look at guys like in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, who's going to be the guy? Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterbacks like, if Darnold or if Kyler Murray, if they come out, who knows? Josh Allen may come out of nowhere.
Right. It's happened before.
Yeah. So, it's that new echelon that maybe I'm looking at as potential and you're waiting for more results.
Yeah, can't disagree with that. At the very least, I think we can agree on this. It'll be very interesting to watch, especially some of these young quarterbacks, and to see which ones are the one-hit wonders and which ones become bona fide superstars long term.